As any rational person would expect, glaciers are rapidly disappearing as a result of abrupt, irreversible climate change. Now that Earth is beyond the 2C Rubicon, our overheated planet is exhibiting signs of an intense fever. Even the United Nations, home to the Design-to-Fail Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has recently reported on the adverse consequences of burning too many fossil fuels for too long a time. The United Nations Regional Information Center for Western Europe published an important article on March 9, 2024. The article is titled, "As Iceland Prepares to Lose Its Ice, it Introduces First Graveyard of Glaciers." Here's the lead. Quote, "Iceland's glaciers are retreating so rapidly that future generations may wonder how Iceland got its name. For this reason, Iceland was a logical venue for the world's first global glacier graveyard, which was unveiled at a ceremony on 17 August close to the capital Reykjavik." End quote. Their ceremony occurred August 17, 2023, and this story published on March 9, 2024 only recently came to my attention. The second paragraph of the United Nations article explains why we are only now learning about this information. Quote, "Researchers from Rice University in Houston, Texas, the Icelandic Met Office, geologists, glaciologists, and government leaders attended the ceremony ahead of the International Year of Glaciers Preservation in 2025. End quote. In other words, this is the year of the International Year of Glaciers Preservation. In the spirit of too little too late, the International Year of Glaciers Preservation is being celebrated this year. Far too many glaciers have already disappeared. In fact, the article by the United Nations explains the daunting nature of the situation in the next paragraph. Quote, "On the same occasion, the global glacier casualty list of 15 extinct and endangered glaciers was released. According to scientists, global warming has led to the disappearance of thousands of glaciers around the world since the year 2000. It is expected that at least half of these glaciers will be lost by 2100. End quote. Quote, "Global warming has led to the disappearance of thousands of glaciers around the world since the year 2000. End quote. Even if only, quote, half of these remaining glaciers will be lost by 2100, end quote, I doubt there will be a scientist able to document this momentous event. In addition, claiming only half of the remaining glaciers will be lost by 2100 is classic reporting in the style I've come to expect. There is nothing to worry about because every significant event will happen long after existing humans are dead. Let's revisit this information about glaciers using information provided by the United Nations. First, quote, "Global warming has led to the disappearance of thousands of glaciers around the world since the year 2000, end quote. In about a quarter of a century, thousands of glaciers have disappeared, melted to insignificance on a planet already too hot to support ice. Yet an additional 3/4 of a century will be required to melt the remaining glaciers, even as an overheated Earth continues to overheat exponentially quickly. Color me skeptical about the time frame, a sentiment I have expressed previously in this space. Although I receive daily email messages filled with magical so-called solutions, I have yet to see the means by which we can halt abrupt, irreversible climate change. In addition, humans seem intent upon ignoring or worsening the climate crisis. Despite all those email messages filled with magic, the actions of more than 8 billion humans speak louder than the numerous email messages I receive. Too little too late doesn't even begin to tell the story. Again, I turn to the line from Barry Corbin playing Ellis in the 2007 film, No Country for Old Men. Quote, "You can't stop what's coming. It ain't all waiting on you. That's vanity," end quote. I'm no fan of giving up. I'm no fan of quitting. However, I'm no fan of magic. I'm no fan of wishful thinking, even if it's called hope. Overwhelming evidence has demonstrated for several years that our fate is sealed. Perhaps we could live accordingly. I have explained many times what I mean by living accordingly. In response, I continue to receive those ridiculous email messages insisting I fix the predicament in which we are embroiled. Responding to each of these messages requires far too much of my time. I'm never compensated, of course. Here is a recent example of the type of messages that land in my email inbox. Bill starts off with this message, quote, A few years ago, you occasionally mentioned that with a major effort, there was a possibility of salvaging the climate situation. Does that possibility still remain?" End quote. My response, quote, "I cannot imagine it does, unfortunately," end quote. Bill says, quote, "Can it at least be somewhat forestalled?" End quote. I respond with, quote, "I know no means by which we can slow the ongoing rapid rate of accelerating overheating. The current presidential administration believes climate change is a hoax. We're headed the wrong way," end quote. Bill writes, quote, "I've developed a technique where all melodic music can be transformed to sound almost as good as the original. I would get a copyright for all music before around 1926. This will bring in large sums of money. With a major effort, could we start heading the right way? Also, a 50-50 split can be made with current copyright holders," end quote. I respond, quote, "Of course we could. Will we? Recent history indicates otherwise. Please let me know if you have a billionaire or two interested. I am definitely the wrong person with whom to share this information. I did what I could. I quit a high-paying job I loved to live off-grid. I have a stunningly small environmental footprint. In response, my life was destroyed. Do you expect more from me? What would that look like?" End quote. Bill writes, quote, "Would you pursue things if you had billions to work with? If not, do you know people who would?" End quote. My response, quote, "Yes, I would. I'm well short of having billions. If you have expectations from me or others, please make them clear. I'm no fan of wishful thinking, even when it is disguised as hope," end quote. Bill says, quote, "The copyright technique I mentioned would surely bring in many billions," end quote. I respond, "And then what? A solution is still lacking." More responses followed. They were not useful. I will not waste more of your time with them.